Hey, good morning. Happy Tuesday morning to you. This is number 51 in our thematic study of 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and Paul's doctrine of the resurrection. Paul said, "Then comes the end, when he shall deliver the kingdom to the Father. For he must reign until he has put all things under his feet. Then shall the Son also be subject to the one who put all things under him." Now, we are told by many commentators that when Christ comes, he no longer reigns. In my formal public debate with David Hester in July of 2016, Dr. Hester said, well, if Preston is right, and if Jesus came in AD 70, he is no longer ruling or reigning. And he appealed directly to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. So the great question is, does 1 Corinthians 15 suggest to us that Christ abdicates his rule and reign at his coming? Now, in the last video, this is so important. In the last video, I suggested to you that the idea of Christ surrendering his rule, surrendering his reign, abdicating, no longer ruling, violates completely the idea of Christ's return for the wedding. I want to pick up on that, and boy, this is such a fantastic, awesome subject. Paul's doctrine of the resurrection is based partly upon Hosea chapter 13. Hosea 13 predicted the resurrection. The kind of death that it predicted was a covenantal death, alienation from God due to covenant infidelity, covenant adultery. When Ephraim sinned, he died. Yet he sinned more and more. Well, that's dead men sinning. But I want to share with you a couple of really quick bullet points for helping us understand this concept in 1 Corinthians 15 of Christ delivering the kingdom to the Father. So here are the facts. Hosea predicted the resurrection. Hosea's prediction of the resurrection is couched within the framework and in the context of God's marriage relationship with Israel. Now, point number one, God was married to Israel, the 10 northern tribes. Isaiah 51, Isaiah 54. God married Israel through giving Torah, the old law, the law of Moses. When Israel violated Torah, God divorced her. Hosea chapter 2, 1 and following, in which God said, "Write her a bill of divorcement. I am not her husband. She is not my wife." Okay, now watch this. God divorced Israel. In Hosea chapter 5, 15 and following, when God divorced her, he departed. Now, God was not visibly, literally, physically with Israel, but he was with them through covenant blessing, through his covenant presence. But the Lord said, because of her sin, I will go away. I will return to my place until they repent. So, point number one, God divorced Israel. Point number two, God departed. Point number three, God put Israel to death. I will tear them as a young lion, as a young beast tears its prey. I will destroy them, and none shall heal. Hosea chapter 5, 15 and 16. In Hosea chapter 6, 5 and 6, Israel, living, breathing human beings, said, "He has slain us." Do you catch that? So God divorced Israel, departed from Israel, and put her to death. Oh, but wait. Yahweh said that in the last days he would remarry her. Hosea 2:19. In the last days, God said, I will betroth her to me again. I will betroth her to me in righteousness. I will betroth her to me forever. God promised to remarry her. Point number 2. Remember, God said, I will depart until they repent. Hosea chapter 6 depicts Israel repenting, and Israel says, He will come to us like the morning dew. Well, folks, if the coming or if the departing was not literal, visible, and physical, then the return was not literal, visible, and physical. But God said, I'm going to remarry you. I'm going to return to you. Oh, and I'm going to raise you up. The Lord said, or Isaiah said, He has slain us, but on the third day He will raise us up, and we shall live in His sight. Now let me ask you, does that sound like an abdication to you? Does that sound like a surrendering to you? Does that sound like a no more ruling and reigning to you? No. This story of God's marriage and divorce and remarriage with Israel, number one, has everything in the world to do with resurrection, but it's not biological resurrection. Point number 2, it absolutely falsifies the view that at His coming, Jesus was going to surrender the kingdom. No, at His coming, it would be to remarry Israel. Remember, God said, I'll remarry you. I will return to you. I will raise you from the dead. Now look, I develop all of this in my book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, the Wedding of the King of Kings. We have more, so we'll see you on the flip side.